seem to be finding it strange. You see, people seem to be talking. I don't know what the comments are. Hi Hazel, hi Jen, and you're talking to Brian, but I can't see that message. Robin, morning Robin. I mean, there's a thing, oh God, it's this software stuff. What they've been doing is they've made a new comments where everybody can see each other, which is fine. Morning Anne, you missed part 1. Go into the garden before. It's not going to rain or snow. Morning Linda, everybody's coming in now. Morning Heather, morning Linda. Everybody is coming in. I don't know where you've been. I've been here all bloody day. So yes, so everybody's piling in bit by bit. So yes, what they've done is they keep adding to this software, and they've made it so the comments that you can see people who are on Facebook on the art group can see people from YouTube, etc. The only trouble is it's fine for the people who are talking, like if I was talking to you now. Morning Gillian, you alright? It's fine if I'm talking to you. Wait a second. Like that. So now you can see the full picture there with me in, and you can see your comments, but what they've done now is fetch it in so my picture will fill the screen like as normal, but the comments will be overlaid over top of it, which is no good if you're doing a painting demonstration, because then the comments will be down half the picture. So I'm hoping that they improve that. So I'll just go back to the normal comments. Morning Ken, you alright? I'll just go back to normal comments, then we're not crossing the picture a bit. So yeah, right, that's the thing. They constantly working on this type of system all the time, and I like the idea that you can see all the comments on, but I don't like the idea where it's going to block half or a quarter of me painting out when I'm doing it. So we shall see. So anyway, morning. So yes, it's nice. We went up to see Robin yesterday in the garden. Yeah. Made him cry again. Made him laugh again, but made him cry again when he saw us. Right. I'm still working on stuff down the gallery because I looked at the video. Morning Claire. I thought I saw you on earlier. Must be swapping around. Yeah. So the gallery one, I had a look at the video that we did on the pastel, and I'm not happy with the camera angles and stuff. So I'm probably going to get some more gear, alter the camera angles, alter the sound levels, and etc. So it's a work in process. I'm still working on it, and I will get there. So down there tomorrow, I'll post it. But down there tomorrow, I'm doing Bamborough Castle in acrylics, a big one. It's a commission where this lady wants her 3 dogs on the beach and some seagulls and the castle. So it's actually a big picture, 38 by 24, something like that. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow down there. Right, meantime, what we're doing today, we're going to get on with the, well, we should get this finished. So yeah, so we want more trees in, more detail, we want some gouache in to highlight some of the lights, and we want little bits of ochre. There's another tree trunk there to go in there. We want a few more trees because we don't want to, at the moment we seem to have on mine, we seem to have an area in the middle that's sort of blank a bit, so I need to get some more trees into there and gouache in there. And we want to darken the water down and get some reflections in there. So that's how we're going to sort of work it. So that's where we are at the moment. And like I said, I think I want to darken the water down a bit stronger so we can put some better reflections in. And I've went down and fetched my pastels back yesterday. I just realised, whoops, wait a second. These are the pastels that I was on about that I used on Friday, the violets, all the different shades going through. Ignore them, I need some white for the snow. But this was a box of violets, and they're very, very soft and dusty. Getting hold of them just leaves your fingers covered. So I might try some of that on parts of the snow just to see. We'll have a look. Right, so yes, so we need to get more trees in. Then we need to get some orcas in, so that it's not just a black line here and there. Like I say, we'll put a few more branches in here. We'll lighten some, excuse me, lighten some of these up. Excuse me, and then gradually go. And I guess you would love them. Yes, I thought you might. They actually do. As I say, ignore them. You can see them, but if I get hold of them, the dust just, you can see the strength of them. It's just pure pastel paint, and instantly just covered in the stuff. I'm not too sure how it'll work on watercolour paper, but I'll give it a go, because like I said, watercolour paper is a bit too rough for them. But they do, you can get a box of greens, box of yellows, box of reds, all doing the same sort of idea, going from the paler version through the stronger pigment. But if you were to buy all them, you'd be bankrupt. Right, so let's get started then. So we'll put some more trees in, and want a bigger one just about here. So we'll put that one in first. And just use Payne's Grey. Then you're going to use, like I said, you're going to use an orca. And all them paints, I've told you about them. All them paints now have a skin over. I don't know if you can see. Can you see it's a skin? It's strange paint that it forms a skin, and you have to press on hard, and you get through. Good morning from sunny Surrey. So that's a Facebook user on on Facebook. Yeah, it's morning. It's sunny all over. It's sunny all over. Right. So we'll get started. I'm just moving that up. Right. So Payne's Grey. You don't need too thin of a brush for this at the moment. And just put in. There's a tree trunk coming down about here. So you can start it off that, and then you can zoom in and alter the consistency of it with a bit of yellow ochre and gouache. So it wants to come down, and like I said, just give them a little bit of movement, sort of coming past this big branch that's going out here, and that sort of comes down to about there, really, just a little bit lower down, about there, just sort of fraction back from them into there like that. And I think we've got most of the trees in we want. There's a darker one just there. I'm just going to put this darker one in about here. I'm leaving it light at the top. I'm just going to darken that particular one down in the background a little bit, and just sort of continue it up. That's Elaine. Yes, I thought it might be. Just clicked. Wait a second. Just click Facebook instead of the YouTube link. Yeah, I mean the Facebook link is basically only for use. Other people from Facebook can't get it. It's only users that are on the course and stuff that can use this. So you don't have to worry about it. Nobody else on Facebook is getting in. Right. So we've got that. What we want to do is just put a very weak wash of blue underneath, the same way as we did with all of them. So just get a bit of wet French ultramarine, wet into the bottom, work it into the, I'll zoom in a bit for you. That's, just zoom back, it's got a bit jerky that. Right, wet into that and sort of break it up, and then just dampen your brush and just drag it out a little bit so it just softens it. And like I say, afterwards you can put a few like grasses, etc. in. So what I want to do now then is get a small brush and paint in lots of the top branches that's coming out all over the place. Otherwise you've got a gap. I'm going to have to zoom out so that you can see the top of the paper. There you go. Right, again, just Payne's grey with a small brush, and it wants to be wet so that it flows off the brush easy enough. It doesn't want to be too strong. So I've just got a fine brush and just create branches. Just vary them out. It can be quite random with this because you're going to drag a little bit of looser foliage through just to break them up a bit so it's not all just branches. So you've got bigger branches coming from here like that are crisscrossing through in front of that one. Into there. You've got other branches coming up from here. You've got branches all over the place. So just fairly wet and just breaking them up and breaking them in. It's this lighter area here. I want to sort of get a feeling of more branches. I'm going to use a lighter colour for some of them farther back, like we've got that lighter there. But these stronger ones here, I just want to get these quite well established. So there's a biggish one just going across here. You could probably use a bigger brush, but never mind. It's just sort of coming across here and joining into that. And from that there'll be smaller ones just coming out. That one there. Just tapering off, and then sort of smaller ones just coming away from them at the edges. You can work from right to left. I'm working this way because I'm left-handed, so I don't want to work right over top, so I'm working this way, and then we'll gradually move across. So like I say, we'll use some gouache to lighten parts up. I might even use a bit of pastel in there to hit the sky back just a little bit. Like one or two sort of quick stalks down here, bits of grasses and bits of twigs into there. Got that one in here. Just carry more branches up, just sort of joining them into bits that's coming down, and then once you've got enough Payne's grey in, then we'll just change to a lighter colour. So just keep crisscrossing. We want to build up a whole sort of labyrinth of branches and twigs and trunks. Keep it down there. Bit more water. You don't have to paint exactly every branch, just near enough really. And like on these longer ones that's coming down there, just get a branch, the same as what you do with that, and just sort of flick out some finer edges here and there, just a little flick, so you're just creating some broken edges on the branches. Up into there. And one or two finer ones just off there. Crisscrossing. Right, change over to sort of a more, well, I suppose you could use the same, use the Payne's grey, but just mix some yellow ochre in with it, so that it's a lighter, wetter grey. So you're looking at sort of that, just mixing some yellow ochre into that grey and getting a lighter colour, so it's not so solid. And that's going to be for the ones. That's going to be for the ones in the background, so you're not painting in too dark all the way back. So these trees in the background here, they just want more sort of branches putting in like this. Can you see them? Just they look darker, but they're wet, so they'll pale out once they dry. just creating a whole set of branches in the background, coming from down here, coming from back there. It's like a canopy you're trying to create. Like I say, some of the branches just don't need to be joined together, because I'm going to drag a little bit of sort of wash across them. I might even drag some pastel across them and just suggest the branches, and that one there gets just darker as it's coming down, so you can darken that down to there a little bit like that, and a few sort of smaller finer ones just coming up, so you just creating a wood of trees. And then this one here, we've got to put some yellow ochre in there, lighten it up coming down. But it's got quite a few branches. Now this can be a bit stronger, and this one wants to sort of be in front of these, so you want sort of just a little bit stronger on the Payne's grey. Doesn't have to be black so much, just a bit stronger. I'll have to remember to keep this down so you can see it. Keep shoving it off the edge. And remember, don't have them coming off at the same point. So that doesn't want to go at the same point as that. It wants to go in between them, so they're staggered. There's a big one just going over like that and down. Should be able to keep up with this because I'm not rushing it. I'm taking my time with the branches, so you should be all painting away like mad. And a few more. You do need a few up here, like just little flicks across. Don't have to be joined anything. You're just trying to create a lot of twigs, etc. So you've got a whole sort of shadowy area just in the top that the light is sort of coming through from the back. I'm just going to make that one of them just a bit dark. I'm just going to get a bit of Payne's grey and just make it a bit stronger. Just one of them. Just down there, and sort of take it up there a bit. Just varying, so they're not all just the bluish colour. Right, just keep coming across with a sort of yellowy ochre Payne's grey, wetter, so you can see how lighter it is compared to what we put in. And you're just continuing on with these ones here, just sort of fetching them out, adding more branches. There's a whole conglomeration of branches here, so varying colours, so get some burnt siennas as well, so you can just vary some of the colours back here in the distance. So sort of a wet burnt sienna, and you want to just get lost behind the snow line, so they look as though they're beyond the horizon a little bit. Back into some Payne's grey, but it's all sort of watery. It's just watery. It's just sort of wet colour. And again, a few flicks of branches here and there out just build up the whole mass of trees. If you see a gap, put a trunk in it or a branch. Darken that one down a bit. That one's sort of coming slightly forward into there. So we'll make that one just that bit stronger and just that little bit wider. Like I say, you don't have to paint the photograph exactly, just creating this sense of lots and lots of branches. Want some lighter ones, a little bit more yellow ochre, and some lighter ones just through these gaps, just sort of on the wetter side, so when they dry, they just sort of pale back into the background. Right, I think there's some here. I've got a light one in there, can you see that? I think that's just really where I just must have dragged some water in, but that looks like a one, but I'm going to just emphasize the right hand side of it. And just leave it like that. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll just wash away from it a little bit. And I'll wash the other side. Get a bigger brush. And I'll just water away from that, so that it emphasizes the lighter bit of the tree. Pushing that away. Now you can get some stronger Payne's Greys on this one. Get some stronger Payne's Greys. And sort of really emphasize some of the edgier parts of the tree. Like I said before, you wanted to feel as though the tree trunks are moving about a little bit, so that you get darker areas. That's no good, that brush. You get darker areas and lighter areas, and we will put some light back into parts of this. You've got to get feeling as though the branches are turning, catching the sun in different ways. So there we've got that which we put in. We just need an odd emphasis. In fact, I'll probably use a bit of yellow ochre burnt sienna into that. Yellow ochre and Payne's Grey. You don't want it too black. And sort of on the curve, just sort of create shadow, as though it's twisted. You see what I mean? As though it's twisted in and out. And some Payne's Grey and one or two. You've got to sort of balance this. Some of them want to be stronger, and some of them want to be lighter. Just keep swapping brushes around. Joining that in. Like I say, some light, some dark. And if you're going across the front of them, then obviously you need a darker section sort of silhouette across them, so that one will be up there and silhouetted in front of that one. Strengthen under that one a bit more, and then with a wetter brush again, just create a few more suggestions of trees in the background. Crisscross them a little bit so that they don't all follow the same sort of pattern. So sort of take some across as though there's one just slightly angled farther across instead. And just vary the strength of the colours, some darker, some wetter. And then we'll do the same across it. I want to put some lighter ones just in here, but put the dark ones in for the moment. Just put that in there. That's it. Let's see if there's any more comments. No more comments, right. So we've got that one. That one was quite a sort of a sharp one just there, so that felt stronger just there, that one. And it should go behind that tree, so make sure they're just wandering behind. Take that down the bottom a bit, fetch it forward. It's Payne's grey this, but it's really wet, so it won't dry so hard on you, so dark on you. And then on this one you want some darker branches, so you want a stronger Payne's grey, so you want to be putting some really sort of strong areas just out here and there. Branches that's in the shadow. Some are in the light and some are in the shadow. So you can put probably put one just there like that, just down to there. And that would be in front of that one, so you can take it out and up like that. Just lose it. And then one or two up the top here. And there's one or two just... I'll show you how to get it to make it look as though a branch is coming, so they're not all just flat, so it's coming forward a bit. So we're going to pull a one from here and fetch it across the tree. So if we fetch it from down here, dark like that, out, pushing it outwards, pure Payne's grey. What you have to do when you're doing this is keep it in a sort of a narrow plane. Don't have the spread too much. Keep it in a narrow area. So you've got it going out, and then you've got a branch coming from this right across the front of the tree, like that. And one or two finer ones up. Now what we do is we add a bit of light into that. We add a bit of light into that just to help it, the illusion of it coming across the tree. Now what we want now is to darken these trees down on the right hand side, the shadowy side. So I'm just using the Payne's grey and I'm going down that side like that, strongish Payne's grey. And then with another brush, just a bit of wet burnt sienna yellow ochre, just a bit of wet burnt sienna yellow ochre, and just sort of bleed that across. What you can do is take that across the tree trunk like that at an angle, then it looks as though it's sort of casting a bit of a shadow across the tree. Just soften that blend, soften that so it's not a hard transition, like that. I think we could do with a couple of stronger branches just down here. Actual fact, you've got that one just coming out from behind there. think I might just take that one down and out a bit and back on itself a little bit like that. Right, darken this tree down the same way, strong Payne's grey. Emphasise the darks under parts of the trunks and the branches where you want them to feel as though they're in shadow a bit, and then strengthen them down the right hand side. So you're just coming down and creating a darker edge just down there. And then the same principle, a little bit of wet yellow ochre burnt sienna, and just sort of blend it in. Take it across the ball of the trunk in some places, just to help create the illusion of a bit of shadow. A bit of wet paint where you've got a big branch coming across, sort of like that. You can create a shadow, and the way to get the shadow to work is you've got to curve it round the tree. So if you wanted that to cast a shadow down, it would come along and it would curl along and down and round the back of the tree in that respect. Right, a little bit of, I think we're all right up there now. I'm going to use some ochre in to gouache in to lift some of them. We just need a little bit of blue just wet underneath some of these trees, just to tie them into the ground a bit. So just a bit of watery French ultramarine. Just wet them out. Right, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, see where we are. That's all right. I've got that strong. Like I say, I'm going to drag some broken washers in through here to. I want them to be greyed off a little bit more, and I want a little bit more up here. Suggestion of finer branches. I'm just going to put a few finer branches in with a bit of wet yellow ochre Payne's grey, just sort of to suggest they're coming from this tree here down here. So we've just got, we'll have to broaden that tree out to make that look right. Just crisscross a lot of branches, as though there's more trees in the background. And if you're just using the light sort of wet yellow ochre Payne's grey, you can just create that illusion of finer branches just in the background. I just feel that needs to be a little bit more tree in that background area there. Right, I think that might be alright. We'll soon see. Right, that looks strange, but we're going to lighten the trunk down there to make that come out. So first of all, we need to dry brush some feelings of a little bit of foliage in. So you want to get, I don't want it to be bright in this distance. I want to be feeling distant. So you want to sort of grace. You basically want the Payne's grey with a bit of yellow ochre in, and fairly weak, fairly watery like that. Not that brush, better brush than that. Brush about that sort of size, and just use the side of the brush and just sort of, need a bit more on, just sort of scrumble it through. Can you see? Just sort of touching the surface of the paper here and there. These are meant to be in the distance. They're not meant to be the foreground tree branches. They're meant to be distant foliage back there. So you just sort of scrumble it in. And all I'm just using is just the side of the brush and sort of just dusting it over the trees. If you wanted to vary the colour, you could add a little bit more wet yellow ochre here and there, so you just get a little bit of variation. still feel it needs to be darker up here. I still have that feeling I want to put more canopy of branches and trees up there. You're keeping up. You must be. You must be keeping up. I'm really taking my time for you. Right. Now down at the bottom, I'll tell you what, before you do that, get some blues. Payne's Grey, French Ultramarine, and Wet. So just, I've got Payne's Grey, some French Ultramarine, so it's not bright blue and wet, and I'm going to just drag some in up here. I want this to feel more dense, so side of the brush again, fairly wet, and just drag some through. Sort of take it out to the left a little bit. Right, now down here we want it to be sort of slightly warmer, so you want burnt sienna and yellow ochre. So yellow ochre, burnt sienna, all wants to be wet, more burnt sienna than yellow ochre, so that you're getting this sort of feel, but wet. And we're just going to create a bit more density down into here. So side of the brush, doesn't want to be soaking, just wants to be picked up a bit of paint, and just drag some. Be careful of your snow, don't go down into your snow line, but just create a little bit more density down here, in behind the trees. That's better. A little bit dragged across there. Now as you're going farther over, it wants to be grey density, so just your Payne's Grey very wet. Just dragging into this area. Let light show through, don't fill it in. Let light show through it. You can lift it a little bit up, so there's trees back there. Just need to lose that patch of light just there. That's better. And just a little bit more grey just up there. Right, that one there, them branches need to come over a bit more, so I'm just going to use a bit of yellow ochre in with the grey and just take one or two of them just a bit farther over, so they're really coming from this side of the tree, this set of trees here. That's better. Right. We'll let that dry, and then we can put gouache in. What we want to do now is I want the water darker in places so the reflections can look better. So I'm going to use the French Ultramarine with the Payne's Grey and create just areas of darker water. So back there I want some more. I'll just zoom in for you a little bit. Don't want to go too far in. Back there, it wants to be wet, so it's French Ultramarine, Payne's Grey on the watery side, and just fill that in into them gaps, clean round the top of them trees, darken just behind that bit there. just watering it out. Under there. Under that bit there. And then just get a little bit of cerulean blue, fairly wet cerulean blue, and just fetch that in while this is still wet. Just fetch that in so it just gets a little bit lighter in that middle area. I just feel as though it's not strong enough for the. You need it strong so the snow stands out better. Just fetching that forward. This is cerulean blue at the moment. You can use the dark blue in this corner into there just to get it started, and then wet it out with the cerulean, just sort of water it out. Use some yellow ochre burnt sienna just in the middle area. That's better. I wanted to just get everything just that bit stronger. You can use gouache over the top to pick some highlights, or I might even use pastel. I'll show you how to do it with a pastel. Now I want it stronger and darker down here. It's got a sort of, that's dark over there because it's vanishing the distance behind all that. It's lighter here where it's reflecting down, but it wants to be darker here to reflect off these trees, etc. So go back to your blue and Payne's grey. Just paint into the bottom area. A little bit under there, and pull that right out like that. So this is French ultramarine, Payne's grey as a wash. Just get a bit more water. As you're coming away from that shadowy area here, just start adding more of the French ultramarine and less of the Payne's grey. Over to this side and just darken that down just under that area there. And then we've got to darken this down. That's just too bright. So burnt sienna, yellow ochre, put it in, wet it. That's better. Just wet it. And then we're going to put. We can use gouache, but I might just show you how to do it with a bit of pastel as well. You can do it with the gouache and there's no problem, but sometimes just if you wanted a bit more zing to it, a bit of pastel on it will look fine. Got a rabbit up there. Right, and I'm just going to darken down on the front area. I know I did it on Thursday, but I just feel it wasn't strong enough. It's dried a bit paler. So I'm using French ultramarine. I'm adding a little hint of crimson in, not much. And I'm just going to create, that's better, just create a sort of a darker area, just a softness. Like I said before, if you can have it darker near the foreground, it shoves the rest of the eye back in. And you can see the watermark, the Archer's watermark there, but I might drift some pastel over the top of that and drift some of that just down from that edge there and up there a little bit, as though you've just got a soft section just there. Don't allow it to dry. It can dry on the top, but underneath it wants to be wetted up, so it's just sort of softening up. So it can dry hard around the edge, but just wants softening up. And the same over there, you can just put a bit more strength in it. Leave it light on the top, take it down to the water's edge, around there, and just wet it upwards. And I think we need a little bit more down here. So French ultramarine, a little bit of crimson in, and just into this area, into that sort of the crevices, into the sort of the crevices, leaving it lighter across the top of the other clump of snow, leaving it lighter across the top, and then just wet it upwards and trail it away. A bit strong around these areas here. What you're trying to do is create a thickness to the snow, as though it's just melted on the edges. Just water that up. I think that's right. I'll have to scrape that bit out. And just a little bit over in the far distance. Just there. Just sort of blur it along the bottom. So it just loosens the dark lines a little bit. It just carries the snow upwards. Right. Okay. Right. What you want now is some gouache. Tell you what I'll do is I'll just zoom out a second. Now you can use gouache, and we can put some light in, and I'll do some with gouache, and I'll just get the pastels. If you get the pastels like that, and you want a sense of the sky beaming through, I haven't got any blues with me, so it'll be a pale sort of violet type feel, like that. And you can just literally hit. Can you see? I'll zoom in, pull it down so that you can see it, and you can see where I've hit just that tree trunk, so you can just hit one or two edges brightness like that. Just little flicks to suggest the light is getting through here and there. You can use a white in parts. Just little dots of light. And you do that instead of painting. I'll zoom back out. Instead of painting the light and then painting the tree trunks over, you can push colour in, and then you can always take it across. You know, if you put it in too light somewhere, you can just touch it and just tone it down. Or you can use the gouache. So if you're using gouache, and we're going to use gouache now to highlight the trees, etc. So you want some gouache out. I'm going to flick some pastel across the snow and probably into the reflections. So you want some gouache out, and you can do the same thing. Like I said, if you were watching the one the other day, the pastel down the gallery, it doesn't want to be too bright. It wants to be toned down, because if you make them too bright, they jump out too much. They just got to have a feeling of darker sky in parts. So I'm just going to touch them in a little bit, so that the white is toned down a little bit. And this is gouache with a little bit of cerulean blue in. So it's gouache with a little bit of cerulean blue. Little dabs of light here and there. Right, you can use the same colour, because you're going to paint some snow on the branches, Use the same. You don't want it bright white, so you're using gouache with a bit of cerulean blue, fairly wet, and you're going to put some snow onto the tops of some of these branches. I'll zoom into the area where I'm working on. Just got to move that over there a bit. So if you had a branch coming out here, you just want to go sort of above the branch and just flick in some of the gouache on a little odd ones here and there, and just an odd flick out down here to suggest some finer branches catching the snow. You don't need to go right, you can do some of it, but you don't need to go right up. You can just sort of just break it up and just create that illusion of a few. It doesn't want to be bright white, not in the distance. It wants to feel as though you're just in the shadow in the background and just flicking in some branches back there. I'll do a couple just because in that sort of the crook, in the sort of the elbow there where the branch is, you can do some. You can probably make that just a little bit lighter, so just in that sort of corner into the edge of the tree, so there's some snow just sort of clumped in there a little bit. One or two lighter branches here and there. Don't overdo it, just one or two sort of lighter branches here and there. Just running across. That's fine for that. Right, we want this area here. Now, let me see if I can move the brushes out the road. What you want down here, we want to lighten this up a bit, as though there's a bit of light in there. I don't want it to be just solid. So use your gouache again. Use your gouache, but add some yellow ochre and burnt sienna into it. So a little bit of gouache, a little bit of yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and just paint into this tree a bit, just to create a little bit of light catching it in places. And the best thing to do is just rub it in with your finger so that you break it up. Just into there like that. And one or two bits into the bottom. It just helps that what you can do is get a bit more yellow ochre into your gouache as you're coming up here, and add a little, as though the light is catching some. You don't want snow on everything. You want to feel as though there's light catching, because the trees are coming up, so you want to feel as though there's light catching parts of these branches. So the same as what you've done over there just with water, but just painting it in, just creating some lighter areas here and there into these trees. That wants to join up, and that wants a little bit more light into the side up there. Just dragging it over, so you're just skimming over the paper and creating texture. The same for this one here. You don't want these to be too solid, so this one's the same. Just drag into it and break it up, coming down into the snow a little bit. A little bit on that one. That's alright. Now we want these to be whiter. Not snow white, but lighter catching things. So a bit of yellow ochre, a bit of gouache, and it's these here that's really sort of lit up a little bit. So even a bit more gouache into there. Just lighten that one up there. So it's just catching the light up there. And this one here is catching the light. Down to there, and you can do some finer branches of it with the same sort of colouring. Just drag an odd branch out across the front of them, just so it shoves them back, you know, just catching this light. There's a little branch coming out of there. And then we'll put some snow into some of them. We won't have them, you know, we'll have some of them with a bit of snow in. And we wanted that one with a bit of yellow ochre, didn't we? That one there. Which is sort of coming behind that, so it wants to come down into the snow a little bit. That tree trunk there wants to feel as though it's coming down just behind that white light one that we've put in. And just reaching that area there, and a little bit of French ultramarine wet just underneath it to tie that into the ground as well. A bit more gouache just for some of these. That one there that had sort of light, you can make it just that little bit more lighter by just sort of touching in. Don't have to make them too big and too long, just odd ones. Maybe one there, so they stand out against the darker parts of the wood that you've put in. A couple of little touches up there. And then pastels out the road. Into that one there like that. Right, we're going to lighten up these trunks so they're catching the sun. So you want, I would actually use a little bit of cadmium yellow with your gouache. A little bit of cadmium yellow with your white gouache, so it's a nicer, brighter colour. And just create some light onto parts of these tree trunks. So across the top of there, you just have that little bit more light into there, into that side of it like that. Just sort of patch some in, separate that trunk there by just putting a little bit of light onto that side, round the top edge of that and down into there. So this is more, it's very pale yellow. I mean, I've sort of wet it out. And like I say, you lighten up certain parts of the branches. And little bits of the tree trunks. So you're creating a sort of sense of shadow. Brighter up into this, like that. Now this one, like I said, you could put snow on it, but we'll just leave it light. You want this to come in front of the tree, so what you want is as it's crossing the tree, it needs to stand out from the tree. So instead of being black right across, it wants to stand out from the tree. A little bit of light down into here. Up to there. Right, now we want snow on them. So get your gouache. I mean, you can put it on, it'll look white, but it will tone down because gouache tends to. But you can add a little bit of cerulean blue into it a little bit, so it's not bright white. So I've just got a little bit of cerulean blue into that gouache. And you can put some snow onto some of these branches now. So just ones here and there, like that one coming out. You can just drop in a little bit of snow onto parts of it. And even flicking out a little branch here and there. Across the top of that one. All you're doing is by putting the snow across, you're separating the feeling of the tree. So you can put a one coming from here if you wanted, just out across that area there. Remember, it will tone down, it won't stay bright. And then we put these branches here across the front of that tree, like that, so it's going out over there. Little dabs of snow that looks as though they've just sort of settled on finer twigs. Just want to put that so it's going out across there like that. Into there. Brighter into there, just a little bit brighter into there, so it lifts it away from the tree trunk a bit. And then just some finer branches of snow just flicking out here and there. You don't need any snow. I think I need to tone that one down. I'm just going to run over it with a bit of wet gouache and yellow ochre, just so it just looks a bit too solid. So I'm just going to drop in a bit wet yellow ochre here and there, just to tone it down a fraction, because I think it was just a bit too bright. Go back to your snow, and you can put some snow on some of these branches, so you can have a little bit sort of just nestling into the corners a fraction, and maybe coming across in front of other branches. Don't overdo the snow, just little touches. You don't need so much on the tops, but just lifting the tree trunks out. So look, I don't want to do too. I'm just going to put some snow onto that blob. There. Right, just zoom out a bit. That's all right. Right. You can see the little bits of light there just getting through. Just making sure I clean my brush. Right, a little bit of wet yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and just create some more little senses of little bits of grasses and foliage just coming out from your trees, just little flicks. You don't need any there, because that tree trunk is meant to be over on the other side of the bank here, just vanishing behind the bank side. But just these, just little flicks of grasses. And you can also put some grasses in here and there afterwards when we've finished with the snow line. And I've got a little bit of gouache in, so I can flick in some finer, in amongst that snow I can flick in some little grasses here and there, just picking them off. Right, we'll deal with the reflections now. So what you want is, we want a sense of reflection off some of these trees. Not a total, because if the water's got some movement in it, you won't get a total. If the stream was stopped, you would have a total reflection, but you haven't, so you don't want it to be too solid. You want a blurred feel of it. So a bit of strong burnt sienna into sort of this area here. Into here. I'll zoom in for you. So I'm wetting it, and I'm going to sort of suggest the reflection of this trunk here. Just a little bit, but I'm going to wet it so that it doesn't stay. Just going to water it so that it doesn't stay too defined. And some Payne's grey in parts of this area, which is reflecting these trees down. And just drag some of the Payne's grey wet in amongst it, just broken like that. So you're just getting a sense of darkness just into there. Whenever you put the reflections in on this type of thing, you need to sort of soften them out. So you don't want them to be too solid. And same over here, just a little bit of burnt sienna in with this your wash, and just create a darker area just over here. Put a suggestion out with the same principle, wet it and break it up just with water, so it just breaks up with water. Same off these, just a darker feel into your water, as though you're just creating. What you're trying to create actually is a mass, which you've already done because you've darkened it down. You odd individual ones, but basically just trying to create a darker mass as the stream moves back into the. Whoops! Pick some gouache up there. As the stream moves back into there. Right. We want a feeling of these trees, and want a feeling of some blues and lights into here as well. So get some gouache and some cerulean blue, and make the cerulean blue more stronger this time. So more blue, just a little hint of gouache so that it can go in, and just create. And you see just some little rivulets in these darker areas. So it's cerulean blue with a bit of white gouache into it, and just creating little ripples here and there. Odd ones just through here. That's a bit bright. All you're using the gouache for is just to help it paint over. And then down here, you can actually use more cerulean blue down here and less gouache, so you can sort of create a few ripples of blues here and there. I'll paint it and then I'll actually show you what you can do with pastels if you wanted to. It's a bit more watery blue. I'm putting it on fairly wet so that it doesn't obliterate the ochres that we put in. It just sort of tones them down a fraction, and you've got this lighter feel here and there. Need to darken down into this corner a bit more underneath that clump of snow there, and wet that out. A bit more, and I'm putting some French ultramarine into this now, just so it's slightly darker. You're trying to get a sense of reflection as though there's a bit of light coming through from the sky as well. Just them little hints of blue ripples here and there. And then we need a darker reflection for these trees down here. So come down into the corner with the Payne's grey and your French ultramarine, into this corner here, in this area. Go under your snow, make it stronger, fetch it out, leave a gap so you get a sense of movement of the water. So leave a gap and then just do a slightly stronger. It wants to be below the tree. Just a few darks. You can do both areas. So underneath this tree, stronger with the Payne's grey and the blue. Again, just leave some gaps so that you suggest movement in the water. Probably use a bigger brush than that. Get some burnt sienna, so you're not a bit of burnt sienna, a bit of yellow ochre, but more burnt sienna, and just suggest a little bit of colour into parts of it. Just wetting some really wet burnt sienna yellow ochre into that, so it's not too bright. And I'm going to create a ripple by just painting it across and breaking up the area at the bottom. So you're just creating a sense of ripple here and there. And darken this side. Just get this side darkened. Into there like that. Right, I'm just going to zoom out and see what that looks like. That's it. We need some stronger reflections in there, and I need to sharpen that tree up a bit. It's just looking a bit too white, so I'm just a touch of Payne's grey and just sharpen into one or two of the branches just down there, sort of a stronger edge just in there. Right, you need a bigger brush for these reflections over here. I want to just get a sense of more blues into here instead of the yellow ochre so much. So just getting some French ultramarine, fairly wet, a little bit of cerulean in with it so it's fairly wet. That's it. Wants to be wet so that it just floats over the edge, and just sideways strokes, leaving like making ripples. So you're just making ripples into the land here and there. So it wants to feel watery. It doesn't want to have too many bright patches. It wants to be wet in. So you don't want too many. You can add some highlights afterwards, but I think it just needs to be toned down so there's not so many lights and darks. I think that's all right. I think that looks better. Right. What you can do now is you can use some gouache if you wanted and dry brush it across, but I'm going to just use a bit of pastel so that you can see what the pastel will do. So I've got white, but I'll tell you what, I've got the white pastel here. I'm going to use that just in the back as though there's patches of strong light getting through and hitting it. So just into them areas there. I'll zoom in. Can you see just getting some stronger bits of light into there? And because of the paper's rough, that's the sound of the pencils, because the paper's rough, it's sort of leaving a broken feel to it anyway. A few lights on the tops of the stone. The better off as you're coming forward is just to use this, leave it laid on its side, and just rather than a point, just drag it broken across the top surfaces so so it's just sparkling over the edges. Into that bit there that I'd blobbed a bit in. So can you see it's just lifting a sense of sparkle out. Now down here, I'll just zoom out a bit because you're a bit close. You'll see the sparkle, but down here let's get a little bit more of the violet colours, the lighter colours, so that it's not too not bright white. If I can get some of this pastel out here. So I've got this pastel. These pastels, by the way, I don't know if they come with a number. I don't know if you can see. Each one's numbered. That's violet something. So I suppose you need to use it. Not use that side, otherwise you'll lose the line. Right. So let's have a look. There you go. So I'm just dragging some side. Now I can't drag too much down into here because can you see that archer's mark? If I drag, it's just going to, I suppose I could rub it in. It's just going to pick out the archer's sign. But you can just get some sense of sparkle that's not bright blue, not bright white, sorry. And just picking up. You've got to be careful you don't overdo it. You could even drift some. Let's see, you could even drift some lightly over parts of this tree, just dusting it over that tree to just create the look of finer branches just dusted with snow. Can you see it's just lifting them out, just a little bit of dusting. You can get carried away with this. I'm just going to put some a bit darker using the pastel. Bit darker because I want it darker down here. I've got a darker one and I love all these. Now then, you've got to be careful with this because what you don't want is it to be sparkly. You want the white to be dusted, so you can just, if you want to tone the colour down a bit you can, but because the watercolour paper is rough you're getting texture, so you've got to be careful with that. So that would be alright on a pastel paper, put on heavy. But on this, on trying to get a sparkle of snow, it's not. I'm going to just use a bit of yellow ochre and just drift some foliage back into parts of this area. So just sort of dusting on. You can even dust a little bit into that blue. Not a lot, just a little bit of burnt sienna. It's not. It's more like a yellow ochre, but it's not so dark. Just dusting a little bit of light here and there. It all adds to the broken feel of the trees. And like I say, you can get too involved with it, too much down with it. Right. I want to put some nearly dry. I want to use the chalks to put some sense of reflections in here. I'll just move the brushes out the road. Just move my brushes out the road and the palette because I'm not going to use the water so much now. And I want, now that's with gouache and you can put more in. I'm just going to put a mount over this. Not a clean mount, obviously. Just put a mount over that so that you can see. Yeah, you can keep swapping around. You can keep. It's all down to all these different systems trying to get the top. I can get you to chat to each other, like I said, but you would actually lose out on the picture. The chat would come in on here where I was working. You can see through it, but it would. I think it would be disturbing. Right, so that's what it would look like with that. You can put a bit of good. I'm going to just drift some pastel into here, just to see what we can get reflection-wise. So, all I've got is violet. So it's a violet reflection. not a violet one, but a violet one. So I'm just going to find out which colours would work better. It's more like going towards the blue violet rather than the, I don't know what I'm talking about. Right, the violet. And I want to trail down a sense of reflection. So I'm not going to go with the long part of it, I'm going to go with it that way and move it down over just to see what we can get. Just picking out little bits, it's just catching the surface of the paper. And I think what I can do is do it a bit, I'm going to press on and do a bit stronger just into here. And I still think I need to go more towards the blue side. Just rub that in a bit. Like that. Little splashes of brighter colour here and there. Just little bits as though there's a movement in the water, just a fraction here and there. You want a little bit back there, but not too much. Just say underneath the water there. Just drift a little bit just underneath into the snow, but just into the water mainly. So you just create a little bit of softness just below the snow. Into there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of yellow ochre in and then some white over it. So I'm just going to create little bits of yellow ochre here and there, and then I'm just going to lighten them so they don't become too strong. A little bit into here and a little bit just coming down from that branch, that tree there, and then use a white over that so it's not too I like it. I like pastels. I'm never too sure with them on the watercolor paper. I suppose it'd be all right, but it's just the roughness of the paper just leaves the pastel looking too broken. Bit of paint. I don't like that. Then I'm just going to wash into that with a bit of paint, just a damp brush, just to take it out a bit. I think it's all right. I might go back to just using some gouache here with the paint, because the pastel is great on pastel paper, but on these watercolor papers it tends to be just a bit too the surface is too rough for it. That's what the matter is. So I'm just going to get some white gouache and lighten parts of this up. A little bit of cerulean blue, white gouache, and just go into these areas. Yeah, the pastel is fighting it because it's on the top. Just create a little stream, little sense of light under that. Just little flicks just to suggest a bit of movement in that water. think that's all right. Bit darker blue without the gouache, and I'm just going to lose that pastel over there. I didn't like that. I think that's about it. You can go on. You can carry on putting more colour in. I think a little bit of yellow ochre into here, just a bit brighter yellow ochre with a little bit of gouache. Just a bit of light coming in between that sort of shadow and that one, so just a little bit of light into there. I'm playing too much with it now. If I'd done that as a pastel completely, I'd have just dragged in a dark colour and then just dragged in light pastel downwards to create it, then the odd ripple across. But I think that's all right, really. Right, I'm just moving the pastels out the road. Like I said, pastels might work all right on. They work all right for giving you the dusting or giving you a little bit of dusting round here. Wait a second, I'll zoom in so you can see that. And see, sort of just dusting over there. There's those little bits of snow being caught on finer twigs and branches. That's basically what that's about. And dusting into the snow just to get a sparkle on the darks, which works all right. But to be honest, I think that's about done. Just seeing if I've got it right. Yeah. So I thought we finished early, but there's nothing. I don't want to start another one just at this stage. So you can see where you can potch and blow. Now, like I said, if you wanted, you could actually do more sky bits in by just dotting pastel in and creating lights coming through areas, so the sky's getting through in places. I think that's it though. I'm just doing stuff for the sake of doing it now. So I think we'll leave that at that. Let's move that out the road and see what you think of that one. Thank you, Janet. I think it looks quite nice. It would look better with a cleaner Blinken mount. I'll just hold it up for you. Hold it up. Catch the light a bit. There you go. The water's all right. You've just got to be. You need the water to be darker so that the snow really jumps out. It's no use having the water too light. Just twist there. That's about right. So you need it dark. We've got a nice sense of dark into them trees over to the other side. So there you go. So that's a good one for you to be doing. I'll send that video up this afternoon, later on this afternoon, and get it by this evening. I'll send the photograph. Take photograph as well. So yes, so tomorrow Bambara in acrylics. I mean, I'm doing these because I'll just want to keep painting. You don't have to watch everything. You don't have to stay here. I'm doing what, 5 days a week now. Elaine, mine is a bit more colourful. Good. Yep, you can make these bright, more colour, whichever you want. This is bonny enough, but you can emphasise more. But yeah, so I'm doing Bambara tomorrow. If you're not around, that's fine. You can just see it. I'll send the video. But I'm still working on getting the video right, getting the cameras over my shoulder properly so that I'm not in the road. And I'll have a bit more go at that tomorrow, and a better mic coming You need a bit more density, Brian, in your, right? Jen, lovely winter scene. Is the one behind you what? No, that's pastels. That's pastels. I did that a while back actually. Switched to Facebook as YouTube crashed. Alright, Lillian, presume that's it. Thank you, Claire. Yeah. So yeah, that's a pastel, that one. On very dark brown paper. In fact, the tree trunks are just the paper with a little bit of pastel into them. And that's it. So that's that one. I can zoom in a bit for you onto that one, I think, can I? No, you're seeing it's vanishing. Yeah. So yeah, so thank you, Julian. Yeah, have a go at them because they are nice pictures, and it's a matter of getting contrasts. Do you know what I mean? Getting this dark contrast here against the snow is where you want the picture to sort of zing out, and dotting in bits of thank you, Ken, yours looks very atmospheric. Yeah, thank you. Brian's needs a bit more density. You can use pastels to get, or you can darken the trees down harder if you want, and then use a bit of gouache over to lighten parts up or drag through it. It's just a matter of softening some areas dark. I've got a lot of pink shown through there when I see it. That's the pastel violet, not pink. Christmas card material, yes, it is, Heather. Yeah, you can call it any stream you want. It could be just out the back of Stain Drop. Yeah, you could call it Stain Drop Christmas card. So yeah, so that works, getting the trees dark and then putting gouache or bits of pastel in to lighten up and fetching light across the tree trunk so you make the branch look as though it's coming forward and not just flat all the time. And I've gone from dark over to light so you've got a feeling of distance. And I think the water actually looks alright. You could, if you wanted, it's not dry enough, you could if you wanted, in fact let's have a look. Might not be dry enough and the pastel might not work. You can, if you wanted to get a sparkle, you can you see, you could scrape into part of the water just to create a sparkle on the water, but make sure you do it with sideways strokes and just lifting out a bit of sparkle. Brian, I'm going to put a touch of pastel in now. It will. If it doesn't, Brian, if you put a bit of pastel in and it doesn't work, get a brush, a stiff sort of bristly brush, and just brush it out, and that'll work. That'll lift it off. But sometimes accents, that would have looked alright, but it's just a bit pink. But I'm going to leave it anyway. I like it. Right, we have finished early, but it's no point in starting another one just yet. I'll sort something out for Thursday. On Wednesday night we're doing the lakes, still finishing off the Ullswater one. So Wednesday night is Tuesday's Bamburgh, Wednesday's Ullswater, Thursday's a new one for you, Friday's Bamburgh, because Bamburgh is a big canvas. It's going to take 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days of painting that. And as I say, it doesn't matter if you can't watch everything. I'm just doing it because I enjoy doing them. And I thought I might as well film them while I'm on. Right, so I'm going to go because I'm just rambling. I'm just rambling away. You can get out. The sun's gone a bit. It's not as bright. It'll be alright down in Surrey. It'll be red hot down in Surrey or over in Spain or France if Doe's there. It'll be lovely. Right, alright then. So I'll see some of you probably tomorrow, some of you Wednesday, some of you Thursday, some of you Friday. I'm having a day off on Saturday. See you later.